you guys were going back and forth. He said he was going to bust your guys' ass.
Yeah, he told me he was going to bust our ass.
I text Russ yesterday. When y'all get there late, I say, yeah, we get there, whenever. You want to do dinner? Yeah, let's do dinner. My last text, I'm a bust y'all ass.
But as you see tonight, bust that ass tonight, and he got the first action tonight on your ass.
Little friendly back and forth there between Pat Bev and Russell Westbrook. This is interesting to see. Your daily sports podcast, news, narratives, takes, and gambling, sort of. I'll be a better gambler once I'm in a state that allows online sports betting. Today is Controversial Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I find some sports dirt, and we discuss, unless there's like big news. And there is some news, but the news is controversial, so we will discuss. First, a couple notes. There have been two groups that have submitted bids for the Washington Commanders. It could finally be happening. Looks like the Snyders are going to get out of town because the NFL is going to kick them out, and then a lot of those guys will probably testify against the Snyder family in lawsuits and maybe even legal proceedings. So, yes. Colts owner Jim Irsay said a couple days ago that he believes the team will be sold by October, and he said, speaking on behalf of owners, kind of. Those are his offhand comments, and Irsay, while crazy, is not stupid. You don't become a billionaire by being stupid, which we will get into later today. I can promise you that. Wait, there we go. Okay, so the Snyders are asking for $6 billion, which is more than it's probably worth a little bit, but you always do that. It's an NFL football team. They're never available, although there are 3 or 4 that are/could become available in the last 4 years, maybe the next 5 years. Seahawks, maybe we'll see. So they sold they valued the team at $6 billion. There have been two teams of people that have reached out. One is this group that includes Josh Harris, Steve Apostopoulos, and Magic Johnson. Josh Harris owns the New Jersey Devils and Philadelphia 76ers, and you're like, oh, well, that's a joke. Well, the Devils are years ahead in a rebuild. They've had a really good year. I don't know if they're going to finish strong. And the Sixers, they trusted the process and they want to win. Owning 3 teams seems hard. Never done it, never tried it, but it does seem challenging to own 1 team. So owning 3 teams seems tough. I don't know. But, I'm just a plebeian like the rest of you. What do I know? The Snyders have to accept the deal. Again, October seems to be the time when Jim Irsay believes it's going to get done. How cool, how exciting. It's good for football. People forget. The first Detroit Lions game as a Lions fan that I ever remember really watching was a game that they lost to the then R words, which I'm not going to say because it's a racial slur. They lost a playoff game with Barry. I think it was Barry Sanders' last game in the NFL, actually. Or no, it was the year that Barry Sanders retired. The Lions went to the playoffs and they lost in the wild card round to Washington. And Snyder had owned the team for, I don't know, like a year or two. Maybe that was his first year, actually. But I didn't really know much about Washington. They were a proud franchise, and apparently he just ruined them. They had Joe Gibbs and all these guys, and yeah, they drove it into the literal ground, and now they don't even have a stadium, and nobody in D.C. wants them anywhere near anything. Other news yesterday, women's college basketball Final Four tickets are outselling the men's college basketball Final Four tickets by $200. This is for 2 reasons. 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is that the logistics make it this way. The stadium is a fourth of the size, I think. So the men are playing at Reliant Stadium, which is a football dome in Houston. And the women are playing also in Texas at American Airlines Center, I think is what it's called, in Dallas. So that's like a basketball arena. And I don't know if they play hockey there or not, but they are outselling them at about $200. It was about, as of 24 hours ago or so, it was about $200 to $300 for women's tickets and about $100 to $150 for men's, depending on what you're looking at. And the internet found that out. So that's reason number 1 is there are just more tickets available for the men's side. And I don't know if those are the cheap seats or what, but there are many thousands and thousands of more cheap seats for the men's team. That's just basic supply and demand. But there are other reasons. I'm not poo-pooing the women outselling the men. Reason number 2 is a negative for the men and not something positive for the women. The negative for the men is that there are no blue bloods except for UConn. But when I mean blue blood, I mean specifically like Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina, these teams that are like actual basketball schools. There are very few schools that make huge revenue on basketball. Most of them make their revenue through revenue sharing agreements with conferences in football. So even like basketball schools like Kentucky, they make revenue on basketball. They make way more on football because they're in the SEC. But Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina, they travel. They are basketball schools. This year, San Diego State, like great. They're a basketball school in my mind. I grew up in the Mountain West. They're great. They're not going to travel like Kentucky would travel. It's just not the same thing. It isn't. UConn kind of used to be. I think that they've won 3 or 4 national titles since like 98 or something. But it's not, again, it's not the same fan base. It's not the same. Also, Southern schools and Southern schools and Midwestern schools have just more intense fan bases. No disrespect to the West, Mountain West, Pac-12. It's just not this, like, these small college towns and stuff. It's just a bigger deal. So UConn's kind of in a metropolitan suburb. It's not the same thing. So that's part of it. There are no huge draws. If Texas went and it was in Houston, I could see that being a big deal. If Houston went, I could see the tickets being more expensive. So that's part of it. But the third and most important reason is Caitlin motherfucking Clark. She's the best women's basketball player, a college basketball player, I will say, of all time, except, I don't know if she, statistically, maybe not. She's certainly the most exciting. All-time Maya Moore, Brianna, I forget her last name. Damn it, is it Johnson? Whoever, they all play for UConn. Maya Moore, Brianna something, Candace Parker for Tennessee, and of course Brittany Griner for Baylor was probably the best ever for a long time. But Caitlin Clark is exactly what we knew would happen to the women's game after Jimmer Fredette and then eventually Steph Curry, who I think Jimmer Fredette and Steph Curry were playing in college at the same time, that was an exciting time in college basketball. She can post stuff from anywhere. The other fun thing about Caitlin Clark is she talks a ton of shit. She is a firecracker, fuck with me, you know I got it kind of woman, and she's the shit. South Carolina has been the dominant powerhouse in women's college basketball for about the last 4 years or so. And Notre Dame and UConn, Stanford, the big, the smart people schools are always smart, but these are like state schools, so it's an exciting time. Iowa never has teams do this well, ever, at anything fucking ever, except for wrestling, ever. Never, ever, ever. They just never win championships. They're always like pretty good. They're one of those mid-level state schools. South Carolina is like at the same level, but they just invested in women's college basketball and it all worked out for them. So I think there are great storylines. I forget who else is in there. I think LSU is in the women's Final Four. So it's Virginia Tech, South Carolina, LSU, and Iowa. The women's Final Four would have been enormous if Miami had beat LSU because the Cavender twins, those TikTok stars, which we will get into in a moment, are in there. So huge deal for women's college basketball. I'm going to look into this. It's because of Caitlin Clark. And the men's game, the men's side doesn't have anything. There are no superstars playing men's college basketball right now. There are no superstars. They're completely devoid of it. I think that Grady Dick, the Kansas kid, might eventually be a guy like that. But the men's college basketball is in a lull, and so the women deserve it. I read somewhere that they have better ratings than some NBA games. I have not fact-checked that. I just got on TikTok, so I'm not going to consider that true until I look into it. Maybe it is. I don't know. Big deal for them, though. Really cool. Okay, Controversial Wednesday. Let's get into it now. A couple things. A couple weeks ago, I think there was word that international athletics committees, specifically those who govern the Olympics, the World Athletics Council, has really tightened the grip on what it means to be transgender and who can and can't compete. So this is from NPR, one of the better and more trustable sources in America. Transgender track and field athletes can't compete in women's international events. So the way that they're doing it is puberty. So this is the exact thing I'm going to say. I'm going to read it. The council's policy, which will take effect starting March 31st, that's this week, largely targets athletes who transitioned. That doesn't quite work. I'll do this one better. Just for those of you watching. Who transitioned from male to female after going through puberty as a male, which in most countries is how you have to transition. It is, and I believe, and ought to be illegal for children to transition in a permanent way, just based on you're a child. But what do I know? If you go through puberty as a male, it will be illegal for that person to compete as a woman. It will also tighten rules for athletes with disorders of sexual development, cutting in half the level of testosterone athletes can have in order to compete in women's events. So a lot of this has been debated and discussed for years and years as becoming transgender has both become scientifically safer and more possible and also more widely accepted in mainstream, specifically Western society. And it's been theorized that things like this could happen. And then Leah Thomas for the University of Pennsylvania competed in swimming, and it kind of brought all this to a forefront, and now it needs to be addressed. Because the theory is that you could just transgender, and it's not fair for, I guess, naturally assigned women. I don't know the correct terminology, but it's not that it's not fair. The idea is like there's a game theory component to this, which is that men wanting to be a champion could simply kind of fudge a transition and just win women's athletics. South Park, of course, famously made a parody of this. It was kind of silly, but also kind of proved the point. My opinion is that if you're faking your transition to win track, you're a fucking loser. That's that. But it's about fairness and integrity. And the science, I mean, it's going to teach us a lot about hormone science, I think. Testosterone, estrogen. Men and women have both of them. People think they don't. They do. Everybody has it. Their hormones are hormones. We all have them. And they're at different levels and different fairness. There's a really good commentary from Ronda Rousey. I forget who the transgender UFC fighter is, but Ronda Rousey was really intelligent on it when she was active in fighting. You can watch that YouTube video. She should pay attention to it because it's all, I mean, at a certain point, transgender or not transgender, people are putting shit in their bodies that isn't there when they were born anyway. There's cheating. And is this just a level of hormonal cheating? Who knows? I will say, though, to kind of prove the point that this needs to be further investigated, this is not a problem when men transition to women. When women transition to men, and that sort of proves there's a fairness issue there, because those folks who are making that transition will never be competitive, I would argue. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we'll see that example. Okay, the big news yesterday that came out was in the NFL. This is about the union. It's about Lamar Jackson. It's starting to appear, or excuse me, that's not what I'm talking about, Lamar Jackson. We'll do that later. We're talking about Thursday Night Football. The NFL it was originally reported that the NFL had agreed to flex Thursday Night Football games, and that teams could be forced to play back-to-back Thursday Night Football games or play multiple Thursday Night Football games on short notice. A lot of the players, coaches, and even some high-level fans complain about Thursday Night Football that the quality of the game goes down because there's not enough time to recuperate your body, and there's not enough time to prepare for an opponent. So they just go out there and play it. Amazon Prime got the rights to Thursday Night Football, and they broadcast all of it now. The games this year were really bad, but part of the problem with the games being bad is that you set the schedule in stone, and that's that. Now, the Cowboys and Lions play on Thursday every year. Then they started to expand Thursday Night Football. Now they do it all the time. I remember the Cowboys or the Lions at one time played for Thanksgiving and then played the following Thursday night. The Thursday night game was the back-to-back Thursday night game is when they gave up the Hail Mary to Aaron Rodgers, the very famous Hail Mary. Players are fucking pissed at this. And then the John Mara, the owner of the Giants, came out and said, there's no one we think about more than fans. Well, fans are kind of like, do we not want it? The data are very clear. We want more goddamn NFL football. It's a bad product. It's not a bad product. It's significantly better than whatever else is being broadcast on Thursday. It's significantly better than anything Amazon has created of its own. And Jeff Bezos is the most influential person in Western society. And if he's not, he's top 10. And so if he wants Thursday Night Football flexed, it's getting flexed. The relationship that NFL owners care about the most is not with their money. It's not with the revenue. It's with their TV people, because that is future revenue. Future revenue is better than current revenue. They can't piss off Jeff Bezos. They want Thursday Night Football to be a product that works. The teams are getting mad. The players are getting mad. This is a dangerous situation, but it doesn't matter. I do think that the Thursday night thing is going to be the next CBA. You can see this tweet from Albert Breer, who's reporting. This is unofficial. This is from backroom sources from Albert, who is an Ohio State douchebag, but he does cover the NFL. 22 owners are for it, 8 owners are against it, and 2 are abstaining from the vote. Roger Goodell defended it, says he believes in player safety. It's the thing we want most. Damar Hamlin died on the field. It is unclear whether or not that injury was football related. He's fine now, obviously, but we're going to see how this goes. I love Thursday Night Football. It's become my favorite primetime game. I look forward to it, and I want the game to be better. I do think that if teams were like, hey, we need to buy, like flexing games is tough because, I mean, the Lions-Packers game was flexed. The Week 18 game was flexed to Sunday Night Football, I think, like 48 hours before they played it. And this would be moving a game by 3 days. So you would have to flex games weeks in advance. The players don't mind Thursday night games because while they suck, you do get a mini bye. They call it a mini bye where you don't have anything Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Theoretically, they could come back. Some teams practice and do stuff on Mondays. Tuesdays is mandated off. Nobody in the facility, I believe. And then, if you win, oftentimes guys will get off till Wednesday. You can go watch your college team play. You can go have some time with the family. You get extra days to rest. But it sucks. It's like going through a car crash. So the mini bye helps people. I think we're headed to a place where teams are going to get multiple buys and stuff. But this is the thing that you're going to see. People are really, really pissed about this Thursday night football thing. And I think for good reason. We're going to get more into the Lamar Jackson stuff as the year goes on. The more I think about it, the more I look into it, there's just no way that he's going to get a fully guaranteed deal. We start to do the math on how many players are pretty good that if they fully guaranteed it, how much money would the owners lose? And you start to look at, this is not about a quarterback. This is a multi-billion-dollar precedent he could be setting. You do not become a billionaire. You do not become a billionaire by giving a quarterback a couple $1 million that could lead to billions. I actually think it's more likely Lamar's played his last snap in the NFL than it is he gets a 5-year fully guaranteed deal. They're not going to do it. Never, ever, never. Maybe I'm wrong. Clip this and find out. Talk shit on me. All right, back and better than ever tomorrow.